Hey, welcome to Crossroads. In today's episode, we'll be talking about the return of Hillary Clinton. How sexual assault allegations against New York City Mayor Eric Adams are part of something much bigger happening right now. It's a loophole that's about to close, and there's a deadline coming up. And also, Biden wants to use highway funds to push, guess what, a new social agenda. We'll talk first what's happening with Hillary Clinton. Let me start with this. President Joe Biden is fading at the polls for the 2024 elections. Democrat voters are showing who their top candidate could be, and guess what? It's not Joe Biden. Guess who it is? Well, Hillary Clinton. That's right. If they get their way, we could see a repeat of the 2016 elections with yet another face-off between Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton. Here's Epoch Times first. It says a recent poll shows that failed 2016 Democrat presidential candidate Hillary Clinton is among the Democrats' top picks for the party's primary if 81-year-old President Joe Biden decides not to run in 2024 due to age or other factors such as illness for office or fitness for office. It says most of the 2,000 plus respondents to the Harvard-Harris poll said that they have doubts about President Biden's mental fitness to serve as commander-in-chief, while more voters say he is worsening as president rather than improving. It says that around 3 in 5 of all likely voters says President Biden shouldn't run for a second term, although there was a sharp partisan difference with that, with 33% of Democrats compared to 81% of Republicans and 66% of independents expressing that view. Now, what's my take on this? Look, we've been seeing what's happening with Biden at the polls. He's not very favorable right now with Democrats, mainly because of the Israel-Palestine issue. That one's very much divisive among Democrats. The border crisis is splitting them in a lot of different areas, including notably like New York City, where they don't have the money or the budget, frankly, to deal with this type of crisis. A lot of that is falling right back on Joe Biden. Now, Democrats are watching these problems, especially among voters who want social welfare and stuff like that, because the budgets are being drained also for guess what, the illegal immigration programs. As they're starting to turn on Biden, however, they're looking at who the other options are, and who do they have? Well, Governor Gavin Newsom, he's not exactly super popular among Democrats everywhere. People can look at the state of California and see about how well he's doing there. Who else is on the ticket? Michelle Obama, maybe? How's she doing in the polls? Not so hot. Kamala Harris, remember, she couldn't even make it in the first presidential election. Really, during the Democrat primaries, she was pushed out. And so, Biden, of course, chose her as the VP. But really, for president, I don't think she'd have the same shot. They need somebody who has at least some charisma, some ability to speak well. I think they'd love to have Barack Obama back, which is, I think, what Michelle Obama would give them, technically speaking. But Hillary Clinton really is the best one they got. And I do think that really, if Biden gets pushed out, and if Hillary Clinton agrees to run, it's a very real possibility that she could be the pick for the Democrats. That being said, speaking of Mayor Eric Adams in New York, dealing, of course, with the migrant crisis and the dwindling city budget with this, something big is actually happening right now. There are sexual assault allegations against him. This happens right after he started calling out a lot of the border crisis problems, and it ties into a loophole that was opened up to get Trump. Let me explain. Now, the mayor of New York City, Eric Adams, is facing a civil lawsuit for sexual assault and discrimination. This goes back to 1993, and this happens as Adams, notably, people are pointing to this, he was criticizing the Biden administration for its relatively open border policy, which is, facilitating mass migration into the United States with help, notably, of the United Nations. Now, under local law, New York City is required to house and feed every single illegal alien who decides to enter the city, and the city is running out of money. Mayor Adams was starting to tour to raise awareness about the problem. He was even calling out President Joe Biden, and he was asking for help from the federal government when, guess what happened? He was hit with a lawsuit. Here's NBC on it. It says New York City Mayor Eric Adams has been named as a defendant in a civil lawsuit, documents filed with the Supreme Court of the state of New York reveal. The lawsuit, brought by a woman who says she worked with the Democrat as employees of the city 3 decades ago, alleges serious charges, including sexual assault, battery, and employment discrimination based on gender, in addition to claims of retaliation and the creation of a hostile work environment. Now, the filing, this lawsuit, did not go into details about the claims for this. It says the notice, filed electronically on Wednesday, has yet to be processed by the clerk and seeks no less than $5 million, as well as attorney's fees and interest at a jury trial. Now, in response to these allegations, a spokesperson for City Hall told NBC New York that the mayor, Eric Adams, does not even know who the plaintiff is. Now, if this sounds familiar, which it probably does, it's because Donald Trump was hit with a very similar lawsuit, notably in New York as well. You might remember, E. Jean Carroll accused Donald Trump of defamation, claiming that Trump lied about raping her in 1995 or 1996 because she couldn't actually remember the year. Trump claimed he did not even know her, much like Eric Adams is claiming he didn't know the woman who's going after him right now. But Trump ended up having to pay E. Jean Carroll $5 million in damages, the same amount that Eric Adams is now facing. Now, in New York, cases like this don't really need evidence. The accusation itself counts as evidence. And so, because if someone accuses you, that is the evidence, that means the situation, it's on you to prove that you are innocent. It creates a situation where the burden of proof is on the accused because there's already evidence presented, and that evidence is what you have to defend yourself against. The evidence just being the allegation, right? And if you're going back to, the early 90s and you have to find evidence to prove your innocence, yeah, good luck with that. You're essentially guilty until proven innocent, which is, of course, one of the big criticisms of this. Again, since the accusation itself counts as the evidence, and it's on you then to provide evidence showing otherwise. And again, in cases this old, literally going back to the 90s when, people didn't exactly document everything on social media or have cell phones or text messages to maybe prove a timeline or innocence or whatever, there's very likely little or no remaining evidence. Now, normally that would kind of protect you, but in this case, where you're essentially guilty until proven innocent, it's going to go after you until you can say otherwise. It's almost impossible, in other words, to provide anything defending yourself. Maybe unless you TV show at the time or something like that. Now, an important point here, though, is that New York had to change its laws to go after Trump. None of this would have been possible, technically. They would not have been able to go after Trump, and by extension, they would have not have been able to go after Eric Adams right now had they not changed the laws. The case with E. Jean Carroll going after Trump was past the statute of limitations. The case was only able to happen because New York state lawmakers passed what they call the Adult Survivors Act, which was signed into law by Governor Kathy Hochul.